Max, do you have a problem with the media having an effect on contracts?
I absolutely do, because it's subjective, and frankly, most of the media gets this stuff wrong too often, and that includes in the NBA. And sometimes it's, as I mentioned earlier, a slavish devotion to, well, this guy's listed as a forward, not a guard, and so he's, you get situations like CP3 not on any of the 3 All-NBA teams, but also Paul George, and maybe you could make the case for Gordon Hayward. I think you might be able to, although he's more of a bubble guy in terms of one of the top 15 players in the NBA. I think it's pretty obvious Paul George is one of the top 15 players. So essentially, because some quirk in the system, or because not enough people are getting it right, a guy's income is affected by like $50, $75 million. That doesn't sound like a problem to anybody, especially with something like that. I've always had a problem with the idea of contracts being based in any way, even in terms of what they might ultimately be. This doesn't exactly take money out of his pocket, but it does limit his ability to make more money based on media people with too literal interpretation of the rules, or by simply not having the kind of analytic abilities to get it right. Yeah, I have a problem with it.
I do not. I'm not trying to say that the media should be the be-all and end-all. I actually agree with Kevin Durant when he says the players know more about it than the media does. We play against these guys. We study film on these guys. We have to prepare for these guys, et cetera, et cetera. But when you are a player and you have an opportunity to show how serious you take matters, for example, with all-star voting, and you have people that actually voted LeBron James and Kevin Durant, Max, off the list, you got a problem. You got a problem. Now, understand what the media is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be objective. We're supposed to judge things according to what we see, not only what we see, but also what we learn from aficionados and experts within the industry in terms of what they tell us. We're conduits of information. We're disseminators of information. It's not supposed to be us just sitting up here and bloviating about what we feel. You have a lot of people that believe that we do that, Max. But Max, what do you constantly get on me about all the time? I'm always on my phone. Someone is always texting me, literally during the show. How many times, Max, since July 25th, when we started doing the show together, do I get text messages through every single segment of every single show on First Take? When am I not on my phone? My point is that you're constantly communicating. Why? Because I am not trying to tell you just what I feel. I'm trying to tell you it comes from a place of substance, from individuals who are experts, who articulate and elocute their position in a fashion that educates and edifies me so I can disseminate it to the masses. As long as you understand that as a member of the media and as a journalist, that is your primary responsibility, to be a disseminator of that information that comes from folks who really, really know. Then the neutrality comes into play. The fact that you're not taking sides and you're going based on the information. You're always going to have mistakes. And that's why I say I totally agree with you, Max. I'm not in support of the media being the be-all and end-all. But the players have proven you can't trust them either, because far too many of them don't take their responsibilities seriously enough once they leave the court of play, because they're paying attention to anything but that kind of stuff. So where does the decision come from? If it's not the media, who do you trust to actually do their job? That's our job. We can't play. That's our job to do that. It's their job to play.
I would say this, and that was actually a concession that the players got in the last CBA, just to try to get more money somehow for the stars, since players like LeBron are actually funding the lesser players.
They're the ones that put the rules in there.
That money gets funded. Right. Yes, and the players are just looking for another way to get more money. I understand that. And, by the way, the players assigned to one of the top 3 or voted to one of the top 3 All-NBA teams, the correlation between them and the best players in the world is going to be extremely high. So it does, if you are on the team, good for you, go get more money. But it does bring up the fact that worthy players will be left off that team and, as a result, have their money capped unfairly lower than it should be. So I'm not arguing that.
That's not accurate. That's not accurate because here's what I'm not knocking you. Here's what I mean when I say it's not accurate. The money that you were going to get, you said it right the first time. You were going to get a certain amount of money, Max, based on the rules that were in place. What happened is that they created a new category to try and soak even more money. So in other words, the media is not costing you money. They're preventing you from getting more of something that didn't exist before because you decided you wanted to find a new way to categorize something so you could make more money. That's not the same as costing you money. You see what I'm saying?
But I do, but you're acting as though it's a level playing field to begin with. In other words, the reason the players accept a salary cap at all, which is an absurd idea, or a max contract rather, or a salary cap per team rather than just more of a revenue sharing arrangement. The reason they accept that is because the NBA has a functional monopolistic position on basketball worldwide, let alone in this country. And so players are at a disadvantage at the negotiating table. So they get this in simply as a way to get closer to their fair share. And what I'm saying is it's an imperfect way to do it.
Yeah, it's an imperfect place, but will you stop treating them like they're playing by rules that aren't applicable to all of us? HBO and ESPN may not specifically I'm saying not specifically in writing cap what Max Kellerman can make. But they have an idea before going into negotiations what they're going to give you and what they're not going to give you. ESPN has the same thing. We all deal with that. It's just that in the world of professional sports, where you're dealing with owners and you're dealing with a fan base patronizing your product, subsidizing your product, they have to have something to the degree of forced certainty. And that's what you're dealing with.